Never Gallimore from the Dallas Cowboys, and I want to give a major shout out to Mike Tag. Keep bringing the hype to the Cowboys Nation. We love and appreciate it. Now, can you dig it? Let's get it.
What's up, Cowboys Nation?
What is up, Cowboys Nation? Good morning. Still trying to get up, to be honest with you. I couldn't have coffee this morning. I had to have some water. Tough night last night, but hey, man, I had a great time. Ended up going out at like 1 o'clock just to do some afternoon stuff. And next thing you know, it was 10:30. Your boy had to get to bed and get home. So I'm going to fight through it because I love talking some Cowboys, and it's like the tough time of the season. So the off season, waiting to get things going. So we got a month, a month or so during the summer. So I figured just pick different topics, have some fun with it. What's up, my man Troy? Glad to see you're up with me. We got some people up, man. It's hard doing, but we're gonna make it happen. But all of the kind of talk with the Cowboys. Obviously we could talk the mini camps and training camps and OTAs to death and what this player is going to do and that player. It really don't much matter until the season gets going. And we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about that. Obviously, we still do it on our live shows on Thursday with Kelly K9. He'll be back, and we've got a great interview on Wednesday. Should be scheduled. It's never a sure thing until that Wednesday comes. But with Eugene Lockhart, talked with him last week. He's ready to come into the cave. So we'll have some fun talking some old school Cowboys. So it got me thinking about the Ring of Honor, and what's the true criteria to get in the Ring of Honor, and what players are on the fringe where it's like, man, they got to be the next ones going in. It could be players or coaches. So the what is up? Good morning, my man. See, hey, getting some people going in the morning. So make sure if you guys are checking this out too, checking it out later throughout the day or live, hit that like, subscribe, share if you're not a subscriber, because we've got some fun things going on when this season gets going. But talking about the Ring of Honor, what's the criteria you're looking at? We got 22 guys in the Ring of Honor. 18 of the 22 are Hall of Famers. So I guess Hall of Fame, being a Hall of Fame is pretty important to get in there. Two of the guys have always been finalists. I think Leroy Jordan will eventually get in on the veteran side. And of course, Darren Woodson. I mean, it goes without saying how he's not in the Hall of Fame already. It's kind of mind boggling to me. And then, of course, you got Meredith and Perkins. They were the early stage of the Cowboys in the 60s. So, sometimes that era can get lost in the shuffle. Oh man. Yeah, we don't want to be talking about we're not talking about Denver, my man Ultra. We're the day is coming Monday. So put me out of my misery. Put me out of my misery. So but yeah, so anyway, we're gonna break down what I think are the five guys that should be next, and then love to get your opinion. Do you think I'm wrong? Is there a guy I'm missing? You've got 11 offensive guys in there. You got 8 defensive guys, and you got 3 coaches or executives, however way you want to put it. Good morning, Vince. I'm gonna get you guys going, man. We're getting some people up this morning. So first one, there's an obvious one, and I see it in the chat, and we're definitely gonna talk about him. But I wanted to save him, for a little bit later. So first one up for me is Ed Too Tall Jones. You guys, if you follow the show, you've heard me probably say this before. That one just surprises me, not only for the Ring of Honor, but even the NFL Hall of Fame, because maybe it's just because I was a kid when Ed Too Tall Jones played, but Ed Too Tall Jones and the NFL and the Cowboys go hand in hand. I think you just say too tall and you know who you're talking about. But he's 4th all time, as a team leader in sacks. He has 100 and I think it was 106 sacks. And sacks really weren't a stat until what, like 81 or something like that. So a lot of those guys missed it, and they went backtracked and tried to get the right numbers. But a lot of that gets missed in those players in the 70s and in the early 80s. But tip passes, I don't even know that's a stat. I can't find any numbers on him, but I just remember him just tipping passes at the line of scrimmage like crazy. Forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, all that kind of stuff that Ed Too Tall Jones did. If there's one thing that you look at it with him, you had Randy White, you had Harvey Martin on the line with him. So, does that hurt? Because you got Randy White, obviously, in the Ring of Honor. And the other guy that's kind of down on my list, but it's, when you start looking at his numbers and everything, it's, well, geez, Harvey Martin would be another one then. If you had Too Tall Jones, well, you got to get Harvey Martin. But the one thing with Too Tall Jones, before Witten broke his record, he was, the Cowboys' all-time leader in games played. So, he played 224 games with the Cowboys, long career. So that is one. I don't know if any of you guys are from that era. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but Ed Too Tall Jones is just surprising to me that he's not in the Ring of Honor. And that's where I started thinking about the criteria. So we talked about Hall of Fame. He's not a Hall of Famer. Does that knock him? Super Bowls matter. I think it was 20, if I got to go back to my notes, 20 of the 22 guys in the Hall of Fame have Super Bowl rings. I mean, Perkins and Meredith, they're not Hall of Fame, I said earlier, but they didn't win. Super Bowls weren't prevalent when they played, but they went to some NFC or NFL championship games, things like that. But they never won, let's say, an NFL championship or a Super Bowl. So Ed Too Tall Jones, to me, is one of those guys. I don't know how he's in there. He should be in there. And I think also, I'm just surprised he doesn't get the Hall of Fame consideration. The one that's hot on everyone's list, and this is one we may talk a little bit longer and love to get your opinions, and I'll share mine on it, is Jimmy Johnson. So you look at Jimmy Johnson, obviously team of the 90s. He was the one, and we've had Coach Campo on here. We had Barry Switzer on here. We've had people on, and no one has denied the fact that Jimmy Johnson was the reason the Cowboys got back. That the Cowboys got back into relevance and back in the Super Bowls. I mean, what he did to build that team from where they were through the draft and through everything else, he's got to get the credit for it. And as hard, with Barry Switzer, and he even said, hey, as Jimmy Johnson guys, I just had that, but the pressure was on Barry Switzer to win that Super Bowl. If he didn't, I mean, he was in a lose-lose way. If he wanted it, it was Jimmy Johnson guys. If he lost it, he couldn't win with the players that Jimmy Johnson had, at least the core. So Jimmy Johnson, no doubt, should be in the Ring of Honor. He's a Hall of Famer. Check that box. Super Bowl champion. Check that box. So the only thing that it leads me to is that there is an issue with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson not people clamoring for Jimmy to get around, but forget Jerry. Yeah, I mean, let's like I said, that last Super Bowl ring that everyone knows Jimmy Johnson was heavily a part of that championship. Make no mistake about it. My opinion on it is Jerry Jones will not put Jimmy Johnson in the Ring of Honor until the Cowboys win a Super Bowl with 100% without him. So when the Cowboys win the Super Bowl this year, mark my words, Jimmy Johnson will be put in the Ring of Honor next year. Now, Jerry's come out and said no one's going to be, he has no plans to put anyone in the Ring of Honor this year. So this season, these guys that I'm mentioning, they're not going in. So Jimmy Johnson, it's all about ego. It's all about the, the way that, what I see? Jimmy Johnson's a quitter. Pass on Jimmy. Oh, yeah. You just don't know the whole story, my man, but it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, Jimmy Johnson should definitely be in the Ring of Honor, and it's BS. And it is personal to my man Jeff. What's up? See your boys up. It is personal with Jimmy, with Jerry and Jimmy, because you've seen it. There's no excuse Jimmy Johnson shouldn't be in the Ring of Honor. He has all the credentials. He checks all the boxes of what we talked about. So Jimmy Johnson should be in. Now we get into some guys that it's going to be an interesting question, because you talk about checking the box and you talk about doing these other things. So checking the box. The next one up for me is Jason Witten. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. We have no doubt about that. He's got the numbers, no doubt about that. Doesn't have the championship. So that's where you go back to, there's a Ring of Honor, Super Bowl championships. Is that a main criteria for them to get in? And if it is, then we got some guys that are going to be in trouble. But I just don't see Jerry Jones not putting some of his guys in there that haven't won the Super Bowl. So Jason Witten, I think he's a Ring of Honor guy. I think he's going to get in. And there is a Jimmy Johnson curse, and I've said it over and over. We got to make it happen. But yeah, in the chat, Harvey Martin had Too Tall Jones. Those are two that we talked about. Witten's going to get in. I think that's going to happen. So another intriguing one to me, well, I'll say a no-brainer if you're going to go off the criteria again, is DeMarcus Ware. DeMarcus Ware, all-time team leader in sacks. I think he's the all-time leader in forced fumbles on the team. Obviously, Hall of Fame player. He checks all the boxes, but the only box that he doesn't check is Super Bowl champion with the Cowboys. He's a Super Bowl champion with the Broncos, unfortunately. But I am happy for him that he got his ring. I just wish it would have been with the Cowboys. So he's another one. To me, it should be a no-brainer. He's going to get in. But you're starting to go down that path of you're getting guys in there without Super Bowl champions. So the Ring of Honor is interesting to me because it's not like they retire the jerseys. I mean, it's just you're putting the players that meant the most to me. It's the players that impacted the organization the most that you want to recognize, and have the fans appreciate it. When you go in the stadium, you see them all along the roads. It's great. It's not retiring numbers because there's plenty of guys. The 88 is one of those things. I saw that the blasphemy of was it Nate Jones or some of these dudes wearing Tony Dorsett's number, which that makes no sense to me, but they don't retire numbers, so I get it. So it's fine. We've had, Jalen Smith's won Randy White's number. You've had all this other stuff, so it's okay. I'm not a big, huge guy on retiring numbers anyway, but I think I love the way the Ring of Honor. It's a prestigious club, so that's what I'm saying. On some of this, what is going to be the criteria for that? Because you only have 22 Cowboys executives and players in the Ring of Honor, and you're talking about the storied history of the Cowboys going back to 1960. I mean, you only got 22 guys in there. So to me, it's just a true honor. So it's going to be interesting what happens. So when I say that, this next player is the one that would be 5 on my list, but it's going to be very, very interesting, is Daryl Moose Johnston. So doesn't have the number. Deion Sanders will not be in the Ring of Honor, shouldn't be in the Ring of Honor. Love Deion. He was with the Cowboys for 5 years, played for like 10 other teams. So I don't think he should be in the Ring of Honor. That's just my opinion. I got nothing against Prime, but he shouldn't be in. But Daryl Moose Johnston doesn't have the numbers. He was a fullback, but he was a fullback for the all-time leading rusher. 3-time Super Bowl champion. He was one of those leaders. He was one of those guys that was integral in the success of the team in the 90s. And, do you put him in without, he's not going to be in a Hall of Fame. So not going to be able to check that box, but multiple Super Bowl champion. But again, you go back to what I think is, what does that Ring of Honor mean? It's those players that really meant so much to the organization. It's, can you tell the story without them there? And I think Moose Johnston's just one of those guys, almost like maybe you can make an argument for Bill Bates, which could be another one. But Moose Johnston's just one of those guys where I think he should be in there. I mean, and Clarence agrees, so I got at least someone who agrees with me, but I think he should be in there. So those are my top 5. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And then you got some other players, and the hot button, and I saw a couple comments, with him, Tony Romo. Should Tony Romo be in the Ring of Honor? No Super Bowls. Don't think he'll get in the Hall of Fame. So he would fall in the line of how he impacted the Cowboys organization. I'd say the positive of how I think he impacted the organization. Well, no Romo. I don't know if you're laughing that he should be in or laughing that I say he shouldn't be in. I don't know, but how he impacted the team. We were a dismal organization. We were losing It was, quarterback. I mean, we went through the laundry list of quarterbacks after Aikman, and Romo kind of came in, and what I would say, he brought respectability back to the team. He won. I mean, his record was like 78 and 49 from my notes. 78 and 49. I mean, that's a pretty good winning record. All-time Cowboys leader in passing, touchdowns, and yards. And so he's got that. But again, when you compare the errors, numbers really don't, to me, they don't hold a lot. It's all you got to start. You got to start looking at the bigger picture of what they meant to the organization, how they impacted the game. And I think with Romo, he's a great story. I think if he was on any other team, you're talking about an undrafted guy that did what he did, and how all the yards and started and everything like that. But I think when it comes down to should he get in, deservingly to get in, that's a tough one. I wouldn't be all up in arms if he got in. I wouldn't be raising hell if he got in. But I would be if maybe he jumped a guy like a Jimmy Johnson. Maybe I'd be a little bit more aggravated. But I think maybe, to Ultra's point, Jerry, I mean, he loves him some Tony Romo. And it's going to be interesting to see how Jerry does with his guys and how they get in. And to me, I think it's tough because I think Super Bowls matter. I think Super Bowls do matter to a big point. And I think if you don't have a Super Bowl, you had better have something that is so big that it can overcome that. And that would be a Hall of Fame. And I think that's where you get Jason Witten. Jason Witten, he doesn't have the Super Bowls. And it's hard because the Super Bowls are really tied to the quarterback more than any other player. But his numbers and his impact and his dominance in the league was so much higher that, obviously being a Hall of Fame, that I think he's going to get in. He's going to get in because of that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Hey, what is up? Yeah, from Germany. I appreciate that, Philip, man. That's awesome. We go worldwide here. That's what the Cowboys do in Cowboys Nation. We are all over the place. That's why everyone hates us. And to Jeff's point, what's the difference between Danny White and Tony Romo? Well, I'll tell you, Jeff. Danny White went to some NFC Championship games, so that's number one. But to your point, I would not. They're kind of the same. I mean, and we talk about Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott cannot get this team to a Super Bowl and win it, he's going to fall in that line as well. Because I think with a quarterback, there's certain things that that they're held to, good, right, wrong, or indifferent, but that matters, and that's the way quarterbacks are judged. And maybe you don't like it, but like my man Ric Flair said, you better learn to love it because that's just the way it is. I saw another one in here, Charlie Waters. 50 interceptions, NFL postseason record. Yeah, he's another one. He's another one that he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's not in the Ring of Honor, but he would be. It's a great point, Bobby. And we had Charlie Waters on the show, so make sure if you didn't tune in and listen to that one, it was good. He would be another one. I mean, you're talking about the impact that he had on this team. In the secondary, obviously with him and Cliff Harris. I mean, they go kind of hand in hand, and Cliff Harris is in the Hall of Fame, and Cliff Harris checked that box, so he's in. Charlie Waters isn't. And could you saturate the Ring of Honor too much? I think the problem that the Cowboys are going to run into is this 27-year drought. Is if you say Super Bowl matters, you're not going to have anyone in the Ring of Honor for a long time. So it's one of those where I'd love to know what Jerry's thoughts are. Is it all personal? Do they have a committee that looks at it, reviews it? Is it something where they're trying to push their guys to get in, to the Hall of Fame? Because you remember Drew Pearson, if my memory serves me correctly, he didn't get in the Ring of Honor till later. Much later. And it seemed like it was when they were trying to push for the Hall of Fame. Darren Woodson got in much sooner after his career. And again, pushing towards that Hall of Fame, which I still don't understand how Darren, if you got John Lynch, and it's no disrespect to John Lynch, and you got, Leroy Butler, those are kind of the safeties in his era. Darren Woodson changed the way that position was played. I mean, people forget. Campo said it best, on our show, and I might have had a clip. If not, I probably should do one. But, I mean, he would cover wide receivers. I mean, he was like a nickel cornerback playing safety. This was before all, some of the changes in the defense. I mean, he was fast. I mean, he would cover Jerry Rice in the slot. I mean, he was just he was an amazing talent and just ahead of his time. He didn't he didn't put up the huge interception numbers, that the other guys have. But I mean, that some of that's opportunity. But you want to talk about a guy who impacted the defense, and you're talking about a starting out play. I think he played special teams almost all his career. He was always on the special teams, so had an impact there as well. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's got to get in. Yeah, and it's Jerry owns a team, so if Jerry wants Romo in, he can be in. But let's see, I want to read this. And Jimmy, biggest issue with Jerry Jones is Jimmy John, but we all need to know why. Is there an old regime? Is it poor recognition? Too tall? Hurt? Nobody has battled balls like too tall. Everson Walls is another one. He's another one that he's not a Hall of Famer. He didn't win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys, but he won a Super Bowl with the Giants. And I loved Everson Walls. I mean, he was another dominant guy. I don't know if he's going to get in for that. Need an autograph. What I got to do? I'm going to be doing some signings at the Cowboys games. Maybe I'll set up a little booth and see if you guys give me $5. No, I'm just kidding. But anytime, it's just hard to ship to Germany. I don't know if you're in Germany or wherever, but yeah, we could definitely work that out. But the thing is with these guys, it's Everson Walls is another great. I mean, there's a lot of Cowboys. Bill Bates, we talked about how what he meant to the team. Everson Walls was there in the '80s. Obviously, he's always going to be remembered for the catch. With Dwight Clark, and you see him in the picture. He's always got a spot there. But Everson Walls was a bad man. I mean, a lot of turnovers, a lot of interceptions, kind of like the way Diggs was, in his career. But I don't know. That was the other thing. If a player leaves and goes to another team and wins a Super Bowl, I mean, man, I don't know if that hurts their chances or helps it. But obviously, Ware is going to get in, and he won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, and there's been a few other guys that have done it. So the next one, let's see, Jerry D. Ware Witten should be the. So Jerry Jones going to put himself in there. And that would be interesting. I always thought like Jerry, and you hate to be morbid, like when he died, his son would put him in. Jerry Jones is going to be in the Ring of Honor, of course. I mean, he, bought the team and everything that he's done with the franchise. He's going to get in, but I don't know. I don't know I don't know with Ultra the disdain for Jimmy Johnson. Really need to go read his book. Go read his book about Jimmy Johnson. But there's no doubt Jimmy Johnson deserves it. But more importantly is we're getting this season started. I don't know how the Hall of Fame can beat the $13. Yeah, I agree. I agree with Everson, but I think defensive guys kind of get lost in the shuffle in the Hall of Fame, unless you're a sack guy. Some of the interceptions guys do, but I think what happens is as time goes on, people forget. People forget. That's why I try to remind you. Daryl Johnston is not a Hall of Famer. He's not but he was so impactful. If you were a fan of the Cowboys in the '90s, the impact that Daryl Johnston had on the Cowboys in the locker room, on the field, everything that goes with it. Jerry, yeah, he's gonna build his own statue outside the stadium. That would be, I guess, that would be funny if he was still alive and put himself in the Ring of Honor and they built the statue. That would probably be funny. To me, it'd be kind of, I don't know, it'd be kind of comical. But I think Jerry Jones needs to, get these Cowboys, win another Super Bowl too, because it's been too damn long. And I'm sick of all these people running their mouths. If I have to hear 28 years, I'll be really pissed. So 27th year, it better come to an end. You understand what I'm saying? No more excuses. I don't want any of that crap. We need to get the Super Bowl this year. But more importantly, the curse of Jimmy Johnson, we need to get him in the Ring of Honor. I was there when he got his Hall of Fame ring, and you heard the crowd. You heard everything when he said, how about them Cowboys? Everything that went with it. The crowd went crazy. That's, again, the reason why Jerry's not going to put Jimmy in the Ring of Honor unless they win a Super Bowl, because it's just going to be a reminder of what could have been and what was. And what was Jimmy Johnson building that team, getting 3 Super Bowls, and nothing afterwards. And that's the thing that eats away at Jerry. And you'll never convince me otherwise. Until that happens, Jimmy Johnson will never be in the Ring of Honor. Yes, that was the Eagles game. And if you guys know me, I go to the Cowboys Eagles games all the time. Probably seen it like 5 times. Never walked out disappointed. And I'll be at the Cowboys Eagles this season. So not planning on starting that trend this year. We'll handle that business with Philly. No curse with the Cowboys. I mean, Ultra has got to be smoking something early in the morning because I love, I love, Jimmy Johnson's core team was the one that won that Super Bowl. And if you think otherwise, you just got some. I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad about anyone because I love Ultra, but it's just your mind is foggy because there ain't a player on the team that didn't say it. I had the coach on. The coach of the team even said it. I had the defensive coordinator who of the Super Bowl team on. He even said it. So I will take Barry Switzer. I'll take Dave Campo. I'll take Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and all those other ones' word for it over my man Ultra. So no issues with that. But they got a little bit more credentials than you and I do. So they say Jimmy Johnson, that was his team. He was the most impactful reason that they won the Super Bowl. The team went south after Jimmy Johnson, which is a fact. So you've got to give credit, and that's not taking anything away from Barry Switzer. Barry Switzer, for him to walk in to that situation when he was in a lose-lose situation, you had to win over a locker room that just lost their back-to-back Super Bowl coach that they all respected, that they all loved playing for. You had to walk into that situation, win them over, and then, oh, by the way, all the coaches were still under contract. All the coaches had to come back. So you had to win over those coaches as well that were pretty much with Jimmy Johnson at the Miami days, most of them. That's tough. And ain't no 500 coaches going to do that. That's why I always say Barry Switzer was the right coach at the right time for the Cowboys to at least maintain something. Now, the downside of it is where you saw the Cowboys' steady decline was really in the draft. You lost Jimmy Johnson's ability in the coach in the draft. That's where you ended up with some really bad draft picks, a lot of gambling, a lot of risk on players to try and keep this thing going. The Joey Galloway's trade, all those other things that went with it, and sacrificing the draft and really not drafting very well. That accelerated the decline of the team, and plus, obviously, they all got older, and they just never could. They never could sustain it. So that's pretty much it. Cowboys O-line of the '90s. Who deserves it most? Stepnoski, second team. Yeah, I mean Stepnoski he's another forgotten Cowboy. I think his tenure, because he played with the Cowboys. I think he went to Tennessee, and I think he came back to the Cowboys afterwards. I think that's probably the thing that would hurt him the most of getting in the Ring of Honor. Eric Williams would be a no-brainer, but again, had the auto accident and never really was the same. Nate Newton, if you're probably going to think of Nate Newton, he had Dan Marino when he was hobbling on crutches, dude. I mean, God, you're driving me nuts with these stupid comments. But I do love you, Ultra. But it's like, God, he didn't have Dan Marino in 1984. He had Dan Marino in 1996. It's a big ass difference. But he got the Dolphins that were a crap team to the playoffs and all of that with an aging quarterback that was past his prime with very, very little talent on that offense. But anyway, I digress. Look who he drafted with the Dolphins. But anyway, Nate Newton, if I were to pick an offensive lineman, and I don't think Nate Newton's a Hall of Famer. I don't think Nate Newton is an all-time great lineman, but he would be one of those guys that I say, if you're going to put in a Ring of Honor, Super Bowls he has, the personality, you can't think of the Cowboys in the 90s without Nate Newton. I mean, that just goes without saying. So he would be one of those guys that could be a fringe guy. Now, I don't think he would get in, and I probably wouldn't put him in. And it's always interesting thing with the Cowboys. They talk about, all the haters will talk about this offensive line, all this great offensive line, and they didn't they didn't really have any Hall of Famers except for Larry Allen, which was on the backside of Emmitt Smith's career. His first half of the career, he didn't have him. Second half, he did. But it's interesting that they always say how great our offensive line is. We didn't really produce any Hall of Famers out of it. So, but anyway, he was, yeah, he was. But Stepnoski was. I agree. If you're talking about Stepnoski, I mean, he was an awesome, undersized center, but he was dominant, and he was. I mean, he ran that offensive line. He called to say he did everything. He gets a lot of credit. So, but yeah, and off field trouble for Nate. But I mean, Michael Irvin's gotten in. He got in with off field trouble, and I think there's a couple other guys in there that. But Michael Irvin, his stats and everything and what he meant to the Cowboys obviously can overcome that part of it. Which, to your point, I don't think Nate Newton. I think that'll be one of those things. Or, he's a fringe guy. Probably not gonna do it. But he's a great story. So, for you guys in the Ring of Honor, do you like the exclusivity? Do you like that it's very limited? I do. I just wish there was a little clearer path of understanding of who gets in, why they got in. I don't have any arguments with anyone who's in. I think they're all deserving. I just look at, to like one comment about Charlie Waters, my feelings on Ed Too Tall Jones. I mean, Witten and where that'll take care of itself. I mean, that's still so early on. I was kind of surprised with where going in the Hall of Fame. I thought he would be inducted this year. So when I heard Jerry, say that he has no plans of inducting anyone in Ring of Honor this season, that kind of got me thinking. It's like, geez, why wouldn't Ware be in? Because typically, except for Jimmy Johnson, of course, when they get into Hall of Fame, you usually see them in the Ring of Honor shortly after. You saw that with Gil Brandt. Gil Brandt gets in the Ring of Honor and obviously the Hall of Fame. So it's that part's interesting of why. So I don't understand what the whole reasoning is. It like Jerry just wakes up one morning and says, hey man, I just, time for Ware to get in the Ring of Honor. We're going to put him in. Because to me, it sends a message of maybe he's not getting in. I mean, the guy, Hall of Famer, he's done everything. Is he not getting in? I mean, Ware is involved with the Cowboys. You see him at mini camps. He's definitely more of a Cowboy than a Bronco. Even though I know he kind of splits on some of his Facebook posts and this and that, but he's definitely more Cowboy in his post and where he's at. So it's just weird. I don't know why he wouldn't be in. But let's see the chats. Love Nate Newton. He is a good dude, and I think he's done a great job on the Cowboys. I guess it's a podcast or TV, whatever. I do watch it. I mean, in this post game stuff and everything with the Cowboys, I do. But we have an embarrassment of riches in terms of talent. No, it's true. It's true. And let's see here. Is Emmett's? Oh God! Of course he's in the Ring of Honor. Dare you say that? I was there when they put it was Emmitt Smith, Aikman, and Irvin. It was a one day they put all three of them, which that's the way it should have been. All three of them in the Ring of Honor at the same time. I went to the game, Dallas versus Washington. We were winning. It was Monday Night Football. Winning the game. Everything looked good. This was before the phones and the internet and all that stuff. And Santana Moss, who's from the U, so I do love him, but he was a Cowboys killer with Washington. And within him, I think we were winning like 13-0. It was I forgot what the score was, but we were winning. And before you knew it, they scored 2 touchdowns in the last like 3 or 4 minutes of the game. We lose. I come home, go to work. And people say, "Oh man, that was a boring game." I can't be, at least Cowboys won or something like that. And I'm like, dude, what were you talking about? We blew it. We lost in the last few minutes because obviously East Coast time, but the game's late. Most people don't end up watching the end of the game. So it was, there it is. Yeah, Brunel to Moss. That was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. And but that was a cool thing. The only thing I regret, really, if I'm being honest, is I never saw Irvin get inducted in a Hall of Fame. I didn't go, and I kept saying I'm going to do it. Emmitt Smith, I didn't. Aikman, I didn't. And now it's like I always wanted to go to the Hall of Fame ceremony. Never did. Still on my list. I don't know when I'll go. Obviously, we're getting in. Kind of that was one maybe I can sneak up there, but probably not going to do it there. So and unfortunately, like a lot of my ties are that team in the '90s, because that's, I was just out of high school, and that was just such a great team. And I always thought how great, that was the first time I've tasted the championships, because I was more of an '80s kid. Cowboys were, when I was a fan of them, they were on the decline. So when you get that in the '90s, man, I just thought this is going to be the way it is all the time. And now, little did I realize that, 90 that January '96 was the last time I was going to see him hoist a Lombardi trophy. Is like I would have bet my paycheck, I would have bet my life savings. Wasn't much back then, so it was easy to do it. That the Cowboys would have had another Super Bowl by now. So I just think it's crazy that it's been this long. And the one that I was talking about, one that surprised me. Now they've been to the Super Bowl. They've been to the Super Bowl, but San Francisco has not won a Super Bowl since 1994, which would have been the 95, January 95. Whenever you don't win a Super Bowl for a while, you always take the day that the game was played. So I could say it's been since 96, not 95. So they could say it's for 95, not 94. But they haven't won a Super Bowl in that long. And I just think for 49ers fans, that is insane, because that's another organization that you just, when I grew up, I mean, they Super Bowls were all the time for them with Joe Montana, and then obviously with Steve Young, but they've had a long drought. Now they've been, and I don't know, are you okay going and losing? Like, would you be much happier with the Cowboys if they went in 2007 and lost to the Patriots, and then went in 2000, whatever it was, with Dez Bryant, the catch, which I know people look at that catch as we would have went to the Super Bowl. There was still time left on the clock, and Aaron Rodgers had the ball, so there was no guarantees for me there. I still say, I just Cole Beasley was right there for a first down. Would have got down, the clock would have drained, and maybe we punch it in there. But I mean, Romo went for it, and that play was his career. I always talk about the Bronco game was his full career in a nutshell. That Dez Bryant, he went for it. I mean, he was a risk taker, and it was a pass, and it was catch. I mean, no doubt it was a catch. There's no doubt. You can't say it. Idiots say it wasn't. But that was a hell of a play. It's a gutsy play. It's a play by Dez. But it was just, it was. Sometimes you just take that easy play and play that clock, because I still think they would have scored. Aaron Rodgers has the ball. I think it would have been hard. It would have been hard to stop them, because we haven't. So. Washington is 90. They were what, 91? Was it 91 or 92? We were 92, 93. So they were 91. So they've been a long time. The problem with Washington is they ended up with just a terrible owner who ruined that franchise, who drove them into the ground. No complaints here, because they're in our division, so fine. But but that's just a historic franchise organization of winning, but that's where the owner just kind of did some stupid things, and I guess he's going to be gone, rightfully so. Unfortunately for us, because maybe you get the right people in there, that franchise can definitely come back. So, but I did not, with all the change, now they got to change their name again. I think they're going to go to another name change, because they never did the research on the copyright of what they took. So, I mean, the whole thing is just, it's kind of embarrassing. Thankfully, we're not the Washington Commanders, as they say. But I mean, the Cowboys in the 2000s before Romo, that's what we were headed towards. I mean, let's just be honest. It was just bad seasons, bad draft, no direction. So yes, DeMarco, the fumble was, that to me was the difference, because I think that would have broke their back. It would have demoralized. I think that I always go back to that play too. I think that fumble in that game was when it happened, it just, it gave them life. And I think we would have put the nail in the coffin if we would have got that. So let's see. I was at the Hall of Fame game in 19. Triplets played one of the last games the triplets played together. Now, that's pretty cool. Someone told me that when you go to the Hall of Fame, in the Hall of Fame game, it's very interactive. The players are very interactive, even the retired guys. So that's one of the cool things. I would love to go there, is just see if you can end up bumping into some old Cowboys and talk some history and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we were spiraling down, and that's where I say, with Romo and the Ring of Honor, is that where he kind of you look at that and you say, man, he should maybe go in the Ring of Honor because, I mean, he single-handedly, I mean, quarterbacks are the drivers, so you gotta say it. He single-handedly got that team back to respectability on the field. Now, obviously, Parcells, with the draft and getting the right people and the mentality and everything that Bill Parcells does, he got them back to some respectability, because I still say how you got to the playoffs with Quincy Carter and Troy Hambrick as your quarterback and starting running back is amazing. I mean, that just shows how important coaching is in football more than any other sport. But we'll see. But yeah, I mean, he definitely and he was undrafted. I mean, they got him because Sean Payton, the relationship Sean Payton had with him, they were both at the same small college, and he was going to go to Denver. I think Denver offered him more money, and Peyton, there was some sort of bet they had, and Peyton, got him to come to Dallas, and obviously the rest is history. And it's I mean, for Romo, it's I'm looking at his jersey. I love him. He's in the cave. I'm looking at his jersey. It was kind of sad and disappointing that his career he wasn't able to have the career that he had because of injuries. Because I mean, if you really look at Dak did an amazing job that rookie season, but you look at that team and they drafted Zeke, and you're going to have Romo there, and you wonder. I mean, obviously went 13th, but you just wonder what could have been for Romo, the years he could have played, because obviously quarterbacks have played longer because they don't get hit so much, but the injuries just kind of, they kind of stole some years from him. So it's just he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that what could have been. But at the end of the day, he had the opportunities and he did not make the most of it. Playoff record. I mean, people give Dak a lot of crap. Well, if you're going to give Dak a lot of crap, you got to give Romo his fair share, because it just did not happen for him in the playoffs for whatever reason. And he should be in the discussion in Ring of Honor. I think so. Let's see a couple more and we'll get this thing rolling. I think Jerry will eventually put Romo in. I bet it's Witten and Romo. No, I mean, that would be, I think that's that's a great point. I think you could see something like the triplets and you put Romo and Witten in there together. I think they're not the same as the triplets, obviously. Didn't have them Super Bowls, but they would go hand in hand. I mean, Romo and Witten were, they both came into the league together. And best friends by all accounts. I mean, some of that you could argue, if you listen to T.O. and you listen to some of these guys, maybe some of that was to his detriment on the field. Because I'd watched, I don't know what game, maybe it was a Giants game, the playoff game, and I was just amazed that T.O., like when they were going down the stretch, how T.O. was not getting the ball. And it was kind of forced to go into Witten on some of them and this and that. So I don't know. That's just my opinion, but it makes you look back and you just wonder sometimes that friendship off the field, does it make any difference on the field? But definitely Witten's a Hall of Famer. I mean, absolutely, he was a stud at tight end. So let's see. Dak should win. Oh, Dak should own the NFC right now. I don't know if he should own it, but the Cowboy, NFC's down. I mean, it's really, all the hate aside to the Eagles, you got to respect their roster. You got to respect what Jalen Hurts did. So I don't want to take nothing away from them, but I think the Cowboys are a more talented team right now. If you lined them up, I'd take the Cowboys, and then the 49ers. Now the 49ers are an interesting one because I think if you look at our rosters, I just think we're better. But sometimes styles make fights, and I just don't know if it's just a bad matchup because we've played. I mean, you could talk about Dak, in the playoffs. It really comes down to those two games. I mean, the other losses that he had in the playoffs against the Packers, I mean, he was unbelievable. I mean, a monster comeback, 3rd and 19 that we gave up to Rob. We win the game. I mean, there was not a doubt in my mind if we got the ball and it was going to be an overtime, we win the game. We had all the momentum. And then if you look at, Witten belongs. I agree. And Romo doesn't. I think I agree with that as well. But we had all the momentum. And then you look at the Rams game he lost. The Rams game, he played well. We had no defense. We couldn't stop the run. I mean, we made I always screw up his name, but I think it was CJ. I think it was CJ Anderson. I mean, it looked like a Hall of Famer. I mean, they ran for like 200 something yards against us. It was embarrassing. That wasn't on Dak. But the 49ers game, I was there with my man Jeff. That one was on the quarterback, the first one. Maybe, not totally on him, but definitely he played a huge part in that. The last one in San Francisco, everything fell on the quarterback. Everything fell on. Now, if you want to throw the coordinator in there, fine. But I'm just talking players on the field. That unfortunately falls 100% on the quarterback. Defense did everything to keep that game close, and the offense could not produce anything. And they had opportunities to do it, and they just didn't get it done. So, is it Dak? Is it the style? Is it what? We're going to find out this year, October 8th, on my birthday. We're going back to San Francisco and we're going to right the wrong. So I have full confidence that we're going to handle this business. But San Francisco is, like I was saying, is an intriguing one because I'm not sold on the quarterback. You got Trey Lance and you got Purdy. I think Purdy was lightning in a bottle 1 year. Took the league by surprise. I'm not expecting that. And if he comes out and plays it out, and he balls out, then I'm probably going to be in trouble because I'm definitely that I'm on record as saying that. Trey Lance, I don't believe in at all. And well, that's one. I mean, that is one part of it. The defense did do everything because he held them to so many points. That is one play that you would see, and it either comes down to he didn't want to. And I hate to say it's the NFL today. Either he didn't want contact, which that's on Diggs. He didn't want to get a penalty, which it sucks. If that's in your mind, the NFL, shame on them because you should be able to play through. So that play was huge. That was the only play on offense they made. So that's why I still say the D did everything. That was the only play on offense that the 49ers made. That's it. So, I don't know. It sucked because that was a huge play. And I think Diggs should have just laid him out. But what are the chances he did that and ended up getting some defenseless receiver? Because that was going to happen. So he could have done it, and I think it would have just come right back to it, and we would have been in trouble. So Rams Anderson, they both of them had over 100. I think it was well over 200 combined. That was just a mess. Now the defensive line, I think our run defense is going to be stout. I think it's going to be tough. I'm just so excited. I'm a defense. Yeah, I love offense. Don't get me wrong, but I love watching some defense. Now, I'll say in that game, it was a defensive battle on both sides. That game was so intense, that Cowboys 49ers game, because everything mattered. And to Troy's point, that one play, as great as the defense played, that one play that they made changed everything in the game for them. That gave them their opportunity. So we just didn't have that. We could have, but we run 5 wide, empty backfield inside the 20 before halftime. Why? I have no idea. But we'll see. I'll see. But yeah, I would have taken the penalty. On that, you got to play football. So you gotta play football. You got to play football, and that's what I'm saying. If the players have it in their back of their mind of penalties, that it sucks. It's shame on the NFL and all of that, because it shouldn't be that way. But that play, without a doubt, was a big play. And yes, Kellen Moore, he called that empty set. And we had a quarterback on the show, and we talked about that play, and he even, he broke it down to us. He said, I don't understand it. The only way you would have called that is if they had a set read. If that read wasn't there, wide open, it would have been a quarterback draw. Which, if they did that, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. But it wasn't. You all saw the play, and you all saw the results. But that's the part, again, yeah, we're not going to live in the past anymore, right? So we got McCarthy and them. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, I love talking some Cowboys. So, come in here. I was out late last night hanging out with some good friends. Talking for like 8 hours, man. We went out at 1:30 and looked at the clock. It was 10:30. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get to bed. I got to get to bed. I'm drinking all day. But we had a great time with some friends. So I wanted to jump on here. More importantly, you guys, appreciate all the support. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe. I hate always saying that because I feel like I'm a salesman trying to sell something. But we're having a lot of fun. Monday, I think it's going to be the end of my heat. I'm holding out hope, but I think it's going to be the end of my heat. But I think Mark's hat If you guys know the story, I think he sent me a hat because we beat the Celtics and we had this little bet. He might have done something to that hat because ever since I got that hat, the Heat hadn't looked the same. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to suck because the Heat have kind of helped, pass some time until the Cowboys season really gets going. But we're going to have some fun on Monday with Jimmy D. And then, of course, Wednesday, Eugene Lockhart. He's committed, but nothing's committed till it happens. So I'm calling him Monday. We're gonna lock everything in, make sure everything is good. But we plans to have him on Wednesday. Obviously, we got our live show with Kelly K9. He's back from vacation. We got to hear the stories. He's hanging out with Cowboys Nation down in San Antonio, or man Jones. We got all this stuff to catch up on and see how his trip was. So Thursday is going to be even better, and we're just going to keep this thing rolling. So I appreciate it. We talked a lot about the Ring of Honor, but obviously we're always going to talk some Cowboys outside of that. But I think the Ring of Honor, I think it's one of the unique things in sports, especially with the Cowboys, because typically, like I said, they throw you in there, they retire your jersey, and they go. But it's an exclusive club. You think of the history of the Cowboys, only 22 people in the Ring of Honor. It's a very exclusive club. So getting in there is hard. Just wish I'd understand the reasoning behind who gets in and who doesn't, because we named 5 guys, at least I did, and then we had some fringe guys that were on there that we can make a definite argument for their impact of the Cowboys as an organization and the history of the team. So it's going to be fun. I wish Jerry would get one more guy in there this year, but he said it's not going to happen. But Jerry owns a team. Jerry's going to do what Jerry does, and we're just going to sit and watch and talk about it. So anyway, you guys have a great Sunday. Enjoy the day. I'm going to be lounging out by the pool, chilling out, recuperating, recovering, maybe do a little grill out. You guys do the same. I appreciate it. I got to update my endings, but I'll just leave you with this. Hope to see you guys all live on Monday, and I'm out.
The Eagles getting ready, because you might not like it, but you will learn to love it, because we are the best thing going today. Now, can you dig it?